Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kim and in today's video we are going to learn how to form questions in Finnish. This video is split into 8 chapters. First we're going to figure out how to form simple yes and no questions. Then in chapter 2 we are going to focus on the so-called WH questions. Here we have 17 different question words before we carry on with chapter 3, which is all about how to form negative questions. Then later we'll also focus on choice questions and verb questions. Chapter 6 and 7 are for the advanced level. Here we are going to focus on emphasis questions as well as on indirect questions. And then, in chapter 8, we will as always practice what we've learned today by solving some exercises together. So, let's begin. Our first chapter is about the yes and no questions. Let's see how to form them. Let's take a look at this sentence. Sinä asut Suomessa means you live in Finland. Now we want to make a question out of this sentence. How does it work? Step number 1, move the verb to the beginning. So asut moves to the first position in the question. Step number 2, add the question marker go to the verb. So we get asutko, which means do you live? After that, just continue with the rest of the sentence. So we get asutko sinä Suomessa, which means do you live in Finland? So let's repeat again. We had sinä asut Suomessa, which means you live in Finland. And when we want to make a question out of it, then we say asutko sinä Suomessa? Do you live in Finland? Let's take another example. Minä voin avata ikkunan means I can open the window. Minä voin means I can, avata, open, ikkunan, the window. Again, now we want to make a question out of it. Remember, step number 1, move the verb to the first position. So here our first verb is voin, so this one goes to the first position. Then in step number 2, we add the question marker, ko to it, and we get voinko. Then we carry on with the rest of the sentence, which means we say voinko avata ikkunan, which means can I open the window? Of course, you can also say voinko minä avata ikkunan. However, the pronouns of the first person singular, second person singular, first person plural, and second person plural can be left out. Let's repeat again. Minä voin avata ikkunan means I can open the window. And voinko avata ikkunan means can I open the window? Alright, now let's move on with the next chapter, the WH questions. WH questions are questions that begin with a question word, like for example, who, what, where, when, or why, and are usually used to ask for specific information, not just yes or no. Our first question word is kuka, which means who. Let's take a look at 2 examples. Our first one is kuka sinä olet means who are you? Kuka means who and sinä olet means you are. Kuka sinä olet? Who are you? Let's take a look at another example. Kuka saattaa sinut lentokentälle means who will take you to the airport. Let's go step by step. Kuka means who. Saattaa, here's the third person singular present tense of the verb saattaa, which means to accompany. Sinut here means you. Here we use the accusative case. And lentokentälle, here is the allative case of lentokenttä, which means airport. So let's repeat again. Kuka saattaa sinut lentokentälle? Who will take you to the airport? Our next question word is mikä, which means what. Here's our first example. Mikä on Kalevala? In English, what is Kalevala? Mikä means what, on is, and Kalevala is the Finnish national epic. Here we use mikä because the Kalevala is a specific thing. So let's repeat again. Mikä on Kalevala? What is Kalevala? One more. Mikä kaupunki on mielestäsi Suomen kaunein? Means which city do you think is the most beautiful of Finland? Let's go step by step. Mikä means what, kaupunki means city, on is, mielestäsi here means up to your opinion, in your opinion. Suomen means of Finland, genitive case of Suomi, and kaunein means most beautiful. It's the superlative of the word kaunis, which means beautiful. So here we use mikä because here we are asking which specific city. So let's repeat again. Mikä kaupunki on mielestäsi Suomen kaunein? Which city do you think is the most beautiful of Finland? We carry on with the next question word, which is mitä, also meaning what. Here's our first example. Voisitko sanoa, mitä kello on? Means, could you tell what time it is? Voisitko means, could you? Here we have the conditional form plus the question marker ko. So voisitko means, could you? Sanoa means to say. Here we have the infinitive form. And mitä kello on means, what time is it? So let's repeat again. Voisitko sanoa, mitä kello on? Could you tell what time it is? And our second example, mitä mieltä olet Suomesta means, what do you think of Finland? So let's go step by step. Mitä means what? Mieltä, here's the partitive case of mieli, which means mind, opinion of you. Olet, you are, and Suomesta means about Finland. Mitä mieltä olet Suomesta? By the way, mitä is the partitive case of mikä. So let's repeat again. Mitä mieltä olet Suomesta? What do you think of Finland? Next question word is missä, which means where. Here's our first example. Missä on lähin avoinna oleva apteekki? Means where's the nearest open pharmacy? Let's go step by step. Missä means where, on is, lähin means nearest or closest, and avoinna oleva literally means being open, which describes something that is currently in a state of being open, like here an open pharmacy. So avoinna oleva apteekki means a pharmacy that is currently open or a pharmacy being open now. Apteekki means pharmacy. So let's repeat again. Missä on lähin avoinna oleva apteekki? Where is the nearest open pharmacy? And our second example, missä sinut tutustuit häneen means where did you get to know him or her? So missä means where, sinä you. Tutustuit here is the second person past tense of the verb tutustua, which means to get to know someone. And this one always requires the ilative case, which is why we say häneen. Häneen is the ilative case of hän, which means he or she. So let's repeat again. Missä sinä tutustuit häneen? Where did you get to know him or her? Alright, our next question word is mistä, which means from where or from what. For example, very common question, mistä sinä olet kotoisin? Where are you from? Mistä, from where, sinä olet, you are, and kotoisin can be understood as originally. Mistä sinä olet kotoisin? Where are you originally from? Next example, mistä elokuvasta te puhutte? Means what movie are you talking about? Why do we use the elative case? Because puhua, which we see here as te puhutte, it's the second person plural present tense of the verb puhua, requires the elative case when we want to express that we talk about something. So that's why we say mistä elokuvasta te puhutte. Mistä is the elative case of mikä, and elokuvasta is also the elative case of elokuva, which means movie. So let's repeat again. Mistä elokuvasta te puhutte? What movie are you talking about? Let's have one more example. Mistä saan lomakkeen? Means where can I get the form? So mistä here means from where. Saan is the first person singular present tense of the verb saada, which means to get, and lomakkeen, here's the genitive case of lomakke, which means form. So let's repeat again. Mistä saan lomakkeen? Where do I get the form? Our next question word is mihin, which means to where. Here's our first question. Mihin sinä matkustat lomalla means where are you traveling on vacation? So mihin here is the illustrative case and means to where or to what. Sinä means you. Matkustat here is the second person singular present tense of the verb matkustaa, which means to travel, and lomalla means on vacation. So let's repeat again. Mihin sinä matkustat lomalla? Where are you traveling on vacation? Let's take another example. Mihin tämä bussi menee? Means where does this bus go? Mihin means to where. Tämä means this. Bussi, bus. And menee means goes. It's the third person singular present tense of the verb mennä, which means to go. So let's repeat again. Mihin tämä bussi menee? Where does this bus go? We carry on with the next question word, which is millä, which can be translated as by what. Millä ajat yleensä toiste kotiin? Means how do you usually get home from work? So let's go step by step. Millä means by what. Here we are referring to the means of transportation. Ajat means you drive. It's the second person singular present tense of the verb ajaa, which means to drive. Yleensä means usually. Toista means from work. Elative case, and kotiin literally means to home. Here we use the elative case. So let's repeat again. Millä ajat yleensä toiste kotiin? How do you usually get home from work? Let's have another example. Millä voi matkustaa Färsaarille? Means by what can one travel to the Faroe Islands? Let's go step by step. Millä voi matkustaa can be translated as by what can one travel, and Färsaarille means to the Faroe Islands. So here we use millä because we are referring to the transportation. We are asking by what means one can travel to the Faroe Islands. So let's repeat again. Millä voi matkustaa Färsaarille? How can one travel to the Faroe Islands? Or literally, by what can one travel to the Faroe Islands? We carry on with the next question word, which is miltä, which can be understood as from which, from what, or of what. Here's our first example. Miltä laiturilta lähtee juna Vaasaan? Means from which platform does the train to Vaasa leave? So why do we say miltä laiturilta here? Well, because the verb lähteä, which means to leave, requires the ablative case when we want to express from where something departs. So miltä laiturilta literally means from which platform. Lähtee here means leaves. It's the third person singular present tense of the verb lähtee, which means to leave. Juna means train, and Vaasaan is the elative case of Vaasa, a city in Finland. So let's repeat again. Miltä laiturilta lähtee juna Vaasaan? From which platform does the train to Vaasa leave? Let's have another example. Miltä tämä kuulostaa? Means how does it sound? Let's go step by step. Miltä is the ablative case of mikä, and here we use the ablative case because of the word kuulostaa, which always requires the ablative case. Tämä means this, and kuulostaa here is the third person singular present tense of the verb kuulostaa, which means to sound. Let's repeat again. Miltä tämä kuulostaa? How does it sound? Our next question word is millä, which can be understood as to what. Here's our first example. Millä kurssille sinä menet? Means to which course are you going? So why do we use millä here? Because of the verb mennä, which means to go. This one requires the allative case when we want to express movement towards a place or an event. Let's repeat again. Millä kurssille sinä menet? To which course are you going? Let's take another example. Millä olet allerginen? Means what are you allergic to? So why do we use millä here? Well, The adjective allergenen is always used with the allative case when we want to express what someone is allergic to. So let's repeat again. Milla olet allerginen? What are you allergic to? Alright, we carry on with our next question word, which is miksi, meaning why. Here's our first example. Miksi pidät siitä means why do you like it? Here we use, by the way, siitä because of the verb pidät, which is the second person singular present tense of the verb pitää, which here means to like. And this one always requires the allative case when we want to express that we like something. Miksi pidät siitä? Why do you like it? Let's have another example. Miksi sinä ajattelet niin means why do you think so? Miksi, why, sinä, you. Ajattelet is the second person singular present tense of the verb ajatella, which means to think, and niin here can be understood as so. So let's repeat again. Miksi sinä ajattelet niin? Why do you think so? Alright, we carry on with the next one, which is millainen, which means what kind. Here's our first example. Millainen ilma tänään on means what's the weather like today? So millainen means what kind, ilma weather, tänään means today, and on means is. So why do we use millainen here? Well, because we're talking about the quality or type of something. What's the weather like today? Millainen ilma tänään on? Let's have another example. Millainen on sinun tavallinen päiväsi? In English, what is your typical day like? So millainen again means what kind. On is sinun, your. Tavallinen means typical, usual, normal or ordinary, and päiväsi means your day. Millainen on sinun tavallinen päiväsi? What is your typical day like? So for repetition, why do we use millainen here? Because we use it in order to ask what kind of or what something is like. Our next question word is minkä, which means what or which. For example, minkä omenan sinä haluat means which apple do you want? So minkä here can be understood as what or which, omenan apple, sinä you, and haluat means you want. So why do we actually say omenan here? Here we are referring to an apple as a whole, which is why we say omenan, which is the genitive case of omena, meaning apple. And since the noun is standing here in the genitive case, the question word we use must also be in the genitive case, which is why we use minkä here. So let's repeat again. Minkä omenan sinä haluat? Which apple do you want? Let's have another example. Minkä värinen Japanin lippu on? Means what color is the Japanese flag? So let's go step by step. Minkä is the genitive singular of mikä, which means what. Värinen is an adjective derived from the noun väri, which means color, plus nen, which is a suffix meaning colored or of the color. So together, minkä värinen literally means of what color. Japanin here is the genitive singular form of Japani, which means Japan, and lippu means flag, and on means is. Let's repeat again. Minkä värinen Japanin lippu on? What color is the Japanese flag? Here's our next question word, which is milloin, which means when. Here's our first example. Milloin sinulla on loma means when do you have vacation? So milloin means when, sinulla on loma means you have vacation. So why do we say sinulla on loma here? You might remember possession is always expressed with the structure person in the adjective case plus on plus the thing being possessed. By the way, I also made a full video about this topic. You can watch it after this video. So let's repeat again. Milloin sinulla on loma? When do you have vacation? Let's take another example. Milloin voisit tulla katsomaan sitä? Means when could you come taking a look at it? So let's go step by step. Milloin means when. Voisit means you could. Here we have the conditional form. Tulla means to come. Katsomaan means looking. And sitte here means it. We use sitte here because the verb katsoa takes the partitive when we're talking about watching or looking at something. So let's repeat again. Milloin voisi tulla katsomaan sitä. When could you come taking a look at it? Now we carry on with the next one, which is mihin aikaan, which means at what time. Here we have 3 examples. Our first one is mihin aikaan posti tulee, means at what time does the mail arrive. So mihin aikaan means at what time. Posti means post or mail, and tulee means to come. Mihin aikaan posti tulee? At what time does the mail arrive or does the post come? Let's take a look at our second example. Mihin aikaan lähtee ensimmäinen bussi Espooseen? Means at what time does the first bus leave to Espoo? Let's go step by step. Mihin aikaan means at what time. Lähtee is the third person singular present tense of the verb lähtee, which means to leave. Ensimmäinen means first. Bussi means bus. And Espooseen means to Espoo. Here we use the ilative case. So let's repeat again. Mihin aikaan lähtee ensimmäinen bussi Espooseen? At what time does the first bus leave to Espoo? And our third example, actually again a very common one. Mihin aikaan sinä tulet? Means at what time are you coming? Alright, we carry on with the next question word, which is kuinka, meaning how. Here's a very common question. Kuinka vanha sinä olet? Means how old are you? Kuinka vanha? How old? Kuinka vanha sinä olet? How old are you? Let's have another example. Kuinka kauan sinä olet ollut Suomessa? Means how long have you been in Finland? So kuinka kauan means how long. Sinä olet ollut means you have been. And Suomessa means in Finland. So sinä olet ollut here shows that the action started in the past and is still ongoing. This is, by the way, the perfect tense. So let's repeat again. Kuinka kauan sinä olet ollut Suomessa? How long have you been in Finland? Let's have another example. Kuinka monessa maassa olet käynyt? Means how many countries have you visited? So now the question here is, why do we say kuinka monessa maassa? Well, this is because of the verb käydä, which means to visit or to go to a place, which requires the inessive case. So let's go step by step. Maassa means in a country. Monessa maassa means in many countries. And kuinka monessa maassa means in how many countries. So let's repeat again. Kuinka monessa maassa olet käynyt? How many countries have you visited? Now we carry on with our next question word, which is miten, meaning how. Miten voin auttaa means how can I help, in the sense of in what way can I help. Miten means how, voin means I can. It's the first person singular present tense of the verb voida, which means can. And auttaa here is standing in its infinitive form. Why? Because of the voida plus infinitive verb structure. Miten voin auttaa, how can I help? Let's have one more. Miten viikonloppu meni? Or for example, miten loma meni means how was the weekend? If you use the viikonloppu version, or if you say loma, how was the vacation? Why do we use miten here? Because we want to know how something went. Let's repeat again. Miten viikonloppu meni? How was the weekend? Or miten loma meni? How was the vacation? Alright, let's carry on with the next question word, which is kenen, meaning whose. For example, kenen poikaystävä on Mikko? Whose boyfriend is Mikko? Kenen means whose, genitive case of kuka. Poikaystävä means boyfriend. and on means is. Kenen poikaystävä on Mikko, whose boyfriend is Mikko. Let's take another example. Kenen kanssa lähdet lomalle means with whom are you going on vacation? So why is kenen used here? We use kenen, which is the genitive case of kuka, because of the word kanssa, which means with. Remember, the word kanssa requires the genitive case. So that is why we say kenen kanssa, meaning with whom. Kenen kanssa lähdet lomalle? With whom are you going on vacation? Now we're done with the question words. We carry on with our next chapter, the negative questions. Now we're going to learn how to form them. For better understanding, let's take a look at this sentence. Sinä et opiskele saksaa means you don't study German. But now we want to form a negative question out of it. How do we do it? The negative verb goes to the first position. Here, the negative verb is at, so this one you put to the first position. Then we add a question marker go to it, and we get at go. Why do we add go and not go? This is because of the vowel harmony. So for now we have at go. And then we just carry on with the rest of the sentence. So we have etkö opiskele saksaa, meaning don't you study German? First we had you don't study German, and because we want to have a negative question, we changed it to don't you study German? Let's repeat again. Sinä et opiskele saksaa, etkö opiskele saksaa? Alright, let's have another example. Hän ei osaa puhua saksaa hyvin means she can't speak German well. Now we want to form a negative question out of it. First, take the negative verb and bring it to the first position. Here our negative verb is a. Then we add the question marker, go to it, and we get eikö. And then we just carry on with the rest of the sentence. Eikö hän osaa puhua saksaa hyvin? Doesn't she know how to speak German well? Or you can also translate it as, can she speak German well? So let's repeat again. Hän ei osaa puhua saksaa hyvin means she can speak German well. And now, eikö hän osaa puhua saksaa hyvin means doesn't she know how to speak German well, or can she speak German well? Alright, now just one more example. We have the sentence he eivät ole täällä means they are not here. Now we want to ask, aren't they here? Again, first step, you put the negative verb to the first position. Here our negative verb is eivät. Then you add the question marker go to it and you get eivätkö. And then step number 3, just add the rest of the sentence. Eivätkö he ole täällä? Aren't they here? Now it's time for the next chapter, which is called Choice Questions. Here is our first example, a very simple one. Haluatko kahvia vai teetä? Do you want coffee or tea? Haluatko means do you want, second person singular present tense of the verb haluta, which means to want, plus the question marker ko, which leads to haluatko, meaning do you want. Then we have kahvia vai teetä means coffee or tea. Both are standing in the partitive case because we are offering an indefinite amount of coffee or tea. So let's repeat again. Haluatko kahvia vai teetä? Do you want coffee or tea? So as you see, here we have a choice question. Let's take another example. Also a very common question. Yhteen vai erikseen means together or separately. This is a question you get very often asked at a coffee shop or a restaurant. Yhteen vai erikseen? Together or separately? Here again we have a choice question. One more. Lähtetkö viikonloppuisin ulos vai jäätkö kotiin? Do you go out on weekends or do you stay at home? Let's go step by step. Lähtetkö means do you go or do you leave? Here we have the second person singular plus the question marker go. Then we have viikonloppuisin, which means on weekends. Ulos means out. Vai means or, which is used in choice questions. jäätkö means do you stay, and kotiin means home. Why do we have kotiin here? Why do we use the ilative case? Well, that's because of the verb jäädä, which we see here as jäätkö, which means do you stay? Its basic verb is jäädä, which requires the ilative case. So, let's repeat again. Lähtetkö viikonloppuisin ulos vai jäätkö kotiin? Do you go out on weekends or do you stay at home? Alright, now we carry on with our next chapter, which is called verb questions. We already talked a bit about it before, but let's take a closer look at it. Tuleeko Jussi huomenna means is Jussi coming tomorrow? You might realize the positive sentence is Jussi tulee huomenna, which means Jussi comes tomorrow. And as you might remember, in order to form a question out of it, we put the verb to the first position, which is tulee, and then add the question marker to it, which is ko, and we get tuleeko. After that, we just carry on with the rest of the sentence, which is Jussi huomenna. Let's repeat again. Tuleeko Jussi huomenna? Is Jussi coming tomorrow? Let's take one more example. Kimberly puhuu koreaa. In English, Kimberly speaks Korean. Can you form a question out of it? Let's do it together. Again, step number 1. Move the verb to the first position. Here our verb is puhuu. Then in the second step, we add the question marker ko to it and we get puhuuko. In step number 3, we just continue with the rest of the sentence. So that means we have puhuuko Kimberly koreaa. In English, does Kimberly speak Korean? Now we carry on with the next topic, which is called emphasis questions. What are emphasis questions? Those are questions where we can stress a specific part of the sentence to ask for clarification. Let's see what it means. For example, hänetkö sinä tapasit means was it him or her that you met? So here with hänetkö, we are expressing surprise that it was that person, like him or her, not someone else. That's why we call it an emphasis question. Hänetkö sinä tapasit? Was it him or her that you met? Let's have another example. Jussiko meni lauantaina konserttiin means was it Jussi who went on Saturday to the concert? So here again we are expressing surprise that it was actually Jussi who went to the concert and not someone else. It's a bit like saying in English, wait, Jussi went to the concert? So you get the point, right? Let's repeat again. Jussiko meni lauantaina konserttiin? Was it Jussi who went on Saturday to the concert? Alright, we carry on with the next topic, indirect questions. An indirect question is when you're asking what someone said, asked or thought, but not asking it directly yourself. So let's take a look at some examples. Our first one is, kysyitkö haluanko vielä toisen lasin vettä? Means, did you ask if I wanna have another glass of water? So let's go step by step. Kysyitkö means did you ask? Haluanko, do I want? Vielä means still, and toisen lasin vettä means another glass of water. So here we have an indirect question because we're asking if someone asked something, not asking the question ourselves. So the question is inside another question. Let's repeat again. Kysyitkö haluanko vielä toisen lasin vettä? Did you ask if I wanna have another glass of water? Let's have another example. Haluaisin tietää, voinko tulla sinun kanssasi means I would like to know if I can come with you. Haluaisin tietää means I would like to know. Voinko means can I. Tulla to come. And sinun kanssasi means with you. So instead of directly asking, can I come with you? We are expressing pretty much a desire to find out that information. This makes the question indirect because it's inside another statement, not asked on its own. So a simple way to think about it is, can I come with you? Versus, I'd like to know if I can come with you. So let's repeat again. Haluaisin tietää, Voinko tulla sinun kanssasi? I would like to know if I can come with you. Now we arrived at our last chapter for today, the exercises. Let's start with our first one. Here you see one sentence. Minä voin avata ikkunan, which means I can open the window. Now, form a question out of it. For this task we have 5 seconds. Alright, let's check. Voinko avata ikkunan? Voinko avata ikkunan? Can I open the window? Next one. Fill in the gap. Kaupunki on mielestäsi Suomen kaunein. Do we have to fill in mikä, mitä, or miltä? Which one do we need here? That's right. The answer is mikä. Mikä kaupunki on mielestäsi Suomen kaunein? Which city do you think is the most beautiful of Finland? Next one. Again, fill in the gap. Elokuvasta te puhutte. In English, what movie are you talking about? Do we need here mistä, millä, or mitä? That's right, we need here mistä. Mistä elokuvasta te puhutte? What movie are you talking about? Next one. Also here again fill in the gap. Ajat yleensä töistä kotiin. How do you usually get home from work? Do we need here millä, or kuinka? That's right, the answer is millä. Millä ajat yleensä töistä kotiin? How do you usually get home from work? Next one. On sinun tavallinen päiväsi. Do we need here kuinka, millainen, or minkä? That's right, the answer is millainen. Millainen on sinun tavallinen päiväsi? Next one. Translate the following sentence. At what time does the first bus leave to Espoo? That's right, the answer is mihin aikaan lähtee ensimmäinen bussi Espooseen? At what time does the first bus leave to Espoo? Next one. Also here, translate the following sentence. How long have you been in Finland? Excellent, it's kuinka kauan sinä olet ollut Suomessa? How long have you been in Finland? One more. Here we have a sentence and the task is to form a negative question out of it. He eivät ole täällä means they aren't here. Now form a negative question out of it. Excellent. The answer is eivätkö he ole täällä? Aren't they here? Next one. Put these words into the correct order. For this task we have 5 seconds. That's right. The answer is lähtetkö viikonloppuisin ulos vai jäätkö kotiin? Do you go out on weekends or do you stay at home? Next one. The task here is to form a verb question out of it. Here's our sentence. Sinun täytyy ostaa maitoa. You have to buy milk. Now again, the task is to form a verb question out of it. That's right, the answer is täytyykö sinun ostaa maitoa? Do you have to buy milk? Next one. Now we're talking about emphasis questions. Translate the following sentence. Was it Jussi who went on Saturday to the concert? Remember, here we want to express surprise that it was actually Jussi who went to the concert. Excellent. The answer is Jussiko meni lauantaina konserttiin. Was it Jussi who went on Saturday to concert? And our last one for today. Translate the following sentence. I would like to know if I can come with you. That's right, the answer is haluaisin tietää, voinko tulla sinun kanssasi? I would like to know if I can come with you. So that's it for today. I hope you liked this video. If you want to learn more Finnish, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day and see you next time.